Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how I did the infamous Spider-Man and what's this man's name? Venom letter lamp with using the letter H. So I started off with finding some silhouettes that I liked for the characters that I wanted to use. I bought these off of Etsy as far as the SVG versions so that I could put them in my Cricut and get them cut out. I made sure that I measured the letter that I was going to use just to make sure that I properly sized it and cut it appropriately so that I can then come in and just kind of cut a little bit to get it to fit inside the letter. So once that was done, that was, the preparation. I did pour a clear layer of resin in the mold first and let that cure overnight so that I had that to work with when I was applying the vinyl. So here you see me kind of just cutting here and there to get the vinyl to stick the way that I want it to. And I'm just taking the stencil itself and cutting it to fit the letter, and then I'm coming in after the fact once I start applying it and kind of trimming where I need to make sure it's a perfect fit. This one was a little bit tricky just because he had a bigger head, and so it was a little trickier to get him to fit in there. But after a little cut and snip here and there, I was able to get him to cooperate with me. So I do want to note that I've never done anything like this before, and I couldn't really find any videos of anybody doing something like this. So I'm authentically winging this, and I'm literally figuring it out as I go. So my idea was, okay, I lay the stencil down. I use the stencil itself from the vinyl to create like a barrier, and I'm going to come in and kind of color it like a coloring book. The idea was to use resin to color it in because I could have used a bunch of different mediums, but I wanted it to be opaque, meaning once I put the lights in there, I wanted to make sure that you could still see the light coming through on the other side. So I didn't want to use paint because I wanted it to be somewhat see-through. So you see me here kind of coming in with the red, coloring Spider-Man's costume. And I'm using, again, the vinyl as a barrier. So I want to make sure that I'm not putting too much resin in there so it doesn't pour over, but just enough so that it sits where it needs to. And so right now I'm coloring with the red, and his eyes, both eyes for Spider-Man and Venom, will stay as they are right now, because the idea is that the light will shine through their eyes more brighter than their actual costumes. So I intend to color Spider-Man's uniform, and then I plan to go in and color Venom's teeth and tongue, and we'll go from there. Alrighty, now time for Venom. For his teeth, I am going to go with like a yellowish, tannish color, whitish. And I'm, again, just going to be very careful with not putting too much, but just enough so that it sits right in the stencil and the outline of his teeth. And then I'm going to come in a little and use a little bit of the red that I used for Spider-Man, mixed a little bit of white tan I used for his teeth, and make a pinkish color to do his tongue. You can see me mixing it right here to get the right color that I'm looking for. Y'all, but I'm really excited about how this is going to turn out. I can see it in my head, and I'm really hoping that it does turn out exactly how I envision it. So I'm just going to go and color his tongue. What you see me spraying occasionally here and there is alcohol. It helps with popping the bubbles in the resin. So I like to spray that before every layer just to help with any bubbles that settle. In this picture, you can see what it cured like. I added the lights already. I also went in and put a blue background on the negative space just to create some layers. And then I poured a clear layer of resin over the lights. And then from here, I'm going to come in and do the background layer so that the light can bounce off of this and show on the other side. So my goal is to use white. Remember that while I'm working on this, I'm working on it backwards. So I have to kind of imagine what it will look like from the front and work backwards. So this is the back of the letter, and the front is on the other side of the mold. So here I'm unmolding. I'm super excited to see what it turns out like. It was giving me a little bit of a hard time, but we got it together. And y'all, first of all, I'm in love. The only thing I would change is I would have used resin for the dark blue night instead of paint. But thank you for watching.